Hall of Fame running this year.
Yeah.
I've seen his name on a couple ballots. I'm sad to say, I don't think Osyp will make it this year, but you know what? He could make it another year. But in today's tournament, in this StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational, Osyp, he hasn't pushed forth any of these SCG events because he hasn't come out to really duke it out, I don't think, at the Invitational yet. Is this his first Invitational?
First or second. I know the way he qualified for this is actually won an Invitational qualifier in Jersey to get qualified up. So he's here, he's ready to play. No buys, unfortunately, but you can't have everything you want in this world. He will be battling round 1 against Rill, again a player who does have a lot of Open Series success. You see the matchup on the screen. You see Naya aggro for Lebedowicz. You see red-green aggro for Rill. We're going to have some green creatures, we're going to have some red creatures, a couple burn spells back and forth here. Should be a lot of fun to start off our day, as our backup match as well, if we are able to cut to that, is going to involve AJ Soccer, the Star City Games Open Series Richmond champion. So, we got a lot of action. I mean, you guys can't even see to our left here, we got Shaheen Saroni doing a deck tech with Ruben Bressler. You can probably expect a little Esper action. You can also check out his article right now on Star City Games as he was preparing for the Invitational in both Legacy and Standard. A lot of action, but we're going to start here with a Rootbound Crag to get round 1 underway.
Very few 1-drops in Osyp's deck. He does have 5 mana creatures to start on turn 1. None of them in his opening play. He does lay it on turn 2 with the opening draw, Rootbound Crag. Second turn, lays Sacred Foundry into an Avacyn's Pilgrim.
We're going to see Rill play multiple Burning Emissaries into a 3/3 Flinthoof Boar. One thing to keep in mind too that you guys might not be aware of, Rill is on a mulligan to 5, and this is a pretty good start for mulligan to 5 as Lebedowicz draws a Loxodon Smiter.
Yeah, Smiter is basically a huge wall right here. Unless Rill has a card like Mizium Mortars, which he does not have in his opening, not in his deck, in his main deck, he could do a Madcap Skills to get past, or he could just crash on in, lose a card. That was not a Smiter, that was a...
yeah, he plays a Boros Reckoner for the turn. Lebedowicz did draw a Smiter, but Reckoner looks like a much better wall in this situation. Again, if there is a removal spell involved, it's going to at least take care of something. You see Rill trying to figure out what the best attacks are in this situation, reaching for the Boar, considering, all right, if I do trade the Boar for the Reckoner, I'm also going to lose an Emissary here as well. So a pretty tough decision when you're on a mulligan to 5 playing a red deck and your opponent plays a turn 3 Boros Reckoner. Yeah,
now this decision also from Osyp's side, it is asking Eric to throw away potentially 2 cards to get rid of that Reckoner. If Eric had 2 extra cards from not mulliganing at all, it would probably be a much easier choice for him. As is, I mean, this is a tough call.
Yeah, I mean, and you see the length of time that this turn is taking for him. It kind of just shows the difficulty of this situation where here comes the Flinthoof Boar.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if Lebedowicz didn't block, and he's not going to. He's just going to go down to 17 because, again, this is a situation where because Rill is on a mulligan to 5, he can use his life total as a resource, get his board better set up. Maybe he has a Bonfire of the Damned in his hand. Maybe he's comfortable just playing a Loxodon Smiter, having up the mana to first strike. But you also see Lebedowicz thumbing through his hand. There's a Damirad in his hand.
Ouch. This is just brutal. His ability here to cause a fight with his Reckoner when there are creatures that will not be able to win the fight. He'll be able to take out, if he chooses to, both Burning Tree Emissaries.
So we're going to see, is it going to go up or down? It's going down.
It's a fight. Let's fight. Okay, you lose the fight. Also, you hurt me. I want revenge. How about I take it on your brother?
So the Moo Cow is going to take down 2 humans. Lebedowicz is going to play a Stomping Grounds tapped, and he's going to, looks like, he's going to pass the turn back with first strike available via that Avacyn's Pilgrim providing white mana. So a very, very good set of opening turns here for Lebedowicz. As Rill is going to untap, he's going to draw his card, and we'll see what he can find. But one thing you do know about the red matchups too, Adrian, is that it's very, very difficult as Rill plays Rakdos Calculator Unleashed for them to be able to push through a Boros Reckoner. I
mean, Boros Reckoner is one of the most scary cards for an aggressive red deck to deal with if it does not already have the game well in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're already doing great, you can just go in there, lose your cards, and get in your damage. But you're a deck that's planning on doing that anyway. You're a deck planning on being able to have that access. Domri Rod here picks up an Avacyn's Pilgrim. But when you don't have them on the ropes, a Reckoner, even dealing with it, means you're probably going to lose your best creature.
Yeah, it's almost like you just have to simply 2-for-1 yourself, which kind of stinks. You know, you saw on Rill's turn a couple turns ago where he decided to attack with a Flinthoof Boar, basically resigned to his fate.
Yeah.
All right, you know, if Flinthoof Boar trades with this, I'm also going to lose a Burning Tree Emissary, but also I can't attack my Burning Tree Emissaries because he's just going to block one and then kill the other one, which is what we saw the Dami Rod do. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation.
I mean, Eric Rill's second turn was really impressive.
Absolutely.
Burning Tree Emissary into Flinthoof Boar as a, I believe it was as a 3/3, and with that kind of opening, I mean, it's practically like playing Frogmite Near Enforcer for those of you who are older, and then like for those of you who aren't, well, just 3/2/2s. They are pretty good when you follow them up with a 3/3 on turn 3.
I'm inclined to agree. Yet, and we saw that start from Rill, not good enough as Lebedowicz is going to cast that Thundermaw Hellkite, going to come across for 5 damage and deciding, you know what, it's time to try to get this game over with. Let's get some damage in. And one card that gets the game over with very quickly is the 5/5 Flying Dragon, as Rill's going to untap and draw his card, and he is certainly behind the 8 ball right now.
Yeah, one of the really terrible moments for a red deck, because this deck, it's listed here as red-green aggro, but I would call this red splash green, really.
I would agree.
Yeah, like one of the terrible parts for a red deck is when your opponent actually starts attacking you.
Yep.
Not a good feeling.
Yeah, when they have the ability to attack you without remorse and don't have to play defense, as you're going to see a Searing Spear, take out this Boros Reckoner, there'll be a trigger to take out that Flinthoof Boar. But when you see the red deck has a 2-for-1 itself like this, or it can start being attacked by a dragon, where, you know, Lebedowicz doesn't have to play Thundermaw Hellkite, leave it untapped and say go, that's when you know you're in trouble if you're Rill. And now here comes the dragon yet again, going to put Rill down to 10, and Lebedowicz, he has a Voice of Resurgence, he has a Loxodon Smiter from earlier, he's going to deploy both of those threats, and you can see here, Adrian, the card quality on Osyp's side much higher.
Oh,
than
absolutely,
Rill's.
absolutely. One of the things that's kind of interesting for me with this, in Nashville, Osyp and I were doing coverage together, and I had my Naya deck that was a little bit bigger than this, and he definitely gave me some advice to how to fix that deck, and I can see he is basically doing, you know, the same kind of thing, making it more towards the Saito side of things. Also, I'm forgetting the Flinthoof Boar. Is he running a Flinthoof Boar? Yeah, so he's actually going at a little bit faster yet with the Flinthoof Boar version of this. No new cards in here besides Scavenging Ooze, and when I say besides Scavenging Ooze, that is a huge, huge card to be put in there.
I would say you're really underselling it, as Scavenging Ooze is one heck of a 2-drop, also quite good in this matchup, gaining life, making its creatures bigger and better than Rill's every step of the way. As you saw, Rill did draw his card and concede, so Lebedowicz is going to win game number 1 of our first round here at the Star City Games Invitational. We'll take a look at the sideboards here. We're going to go to Rill's because he certainly does have an uphill climb. I think he would agree. You take a look at his board of 1 Pillar of Flame, 2 Volcanic Strengths, 3 Electrickery, 3 Burning Earth, 3 Mysium Mortars, and 3 Skullcrack. We'll get to Burning Earth in a second. You know, I think Volcanic Strength is a pretty natural place to start.
It's pretty reasonable.
You know, you want to make these mediocre creatures much better, unblockable. You're not going to win the fights against Loxodon Smiter and Voice of Resurgence very well head to head. So those are going to come in. You know, Electrickery is a little bit too narrow. It can take care of Avacyn's Pilgrim. That's really about it. So that's probably going to stay at home. Mortars does a nice job of actually clearing the way on some of those creatures. But again, you're Mysium Mortaring maybe a Boros Reckoner. You're not thrilled about it, but it's kind of a, you know, I kind of got to do it.
I feel like you have to, particularly since Osyp showed him a Smiter.
Yep.
Smiter is such a hard card to kill. A Mortars is going to be a very valuable weapon against that.
That additional Pillar of Flame can certainly come in to take care of those early drops in Avacyn's Pilgrim, maybe catch a Scavenging Ooze off guard, and of course Voice of Resurgence. But the big one, the new one, Burning Earth.
Yep.
You take a look at Lebedowicz's mana base, he's only got 2 basics and 2 forests, but this is a 4-mana spell.
Yeah.
So can you afford to board in a 4-mana spell where Osyp can get his feet set pretty quickly? You also have to believe that he's going to lower the curve. Those Thundermaw Hellkites are probably going to come out for some things that he can interact with a little bit earlier. But if Rill can get off to a pretty quick start, maybe a Flinthoof Boar, maybe a Boros Reckoner of his own, and then on turn 4, play a Burning Earth, and Osyp doesn't have things set up, it might be okay. Now, you being a Red Magician yourself, I know you wrote an article about Red this week on the Star City Games website. How do you feel about Burning Earth coming in this matchup where you know that Osyp doesn't have very many basics if you're Rill, but is a touch slow?
I think you have to do it. I think you have to do it because what you have to do is play to the games that you can win. I'm not talking about a winning more style situation. I'm talking about what are the paths towards victory. And a part of it is get a huge rush out and have Osyp not be able to stop it. And another part of it is get some damage in early and then get some damage in late with burn and other damage.
Okay.
Well, if you can get a little bit of damage in early, like say you get in 6 damage early, and then you drop a Burning Earth, even if your face is being, you know, torn up by their bigger creatures, by Osyp's bigger creatures, What you can do is hope that Osyp will spend, 4 mana or 5 mana over the course of the game from there on in, and then your Searing Spear will be enough to wrap it up and one final Alpha Strike and get him exactly to 0.
Okay.
I think you have to bring in the Burning Earth just because if you don't do it, the reach from it gives you more opportunities to get paths towards victory.
Okay.
Now, Osyp, he's still got weapons. I mean, like you said, he has these huge creatures. He's got Scavenging Ooze as a life gain spell. I mean, people sometimes forget +1 life when you eat a creature.
Yep.
They remember +1/+1. They're like, oh, it gets bigger.
Yep.
But that 1 life actually, every little bit of life matters.
Especially when you're playing against this red deck. That doesn't, the red decks now, they're more creature laden. They don't have a ton of reach. You're not going to find a Char or a Flame Javelin or, extreme examples, a card like Quenchable Fire.
Right, right.
You're not going to find a card like that. They have Searing Spears, which Rill has 3 of, and he has 3 pillars in his main deck and 1 in his sideboard. Those are very minuscule burn spells. They don't deal a ton of damage.
Eric Rill on the right, you can see just looks like he's almost a little dazed from that last game. Or it could be, it's an early morning, just starting out, round 1. You never want to start out your first game of a tournament with a game 1 loss.
Yeah, and the difficult thing here for him is that, Naya is this deck where, it's a deck that Willie Edel made pretty popular, having a Grand Prix finals appearance with that deck, but you also, it's a deck that hasn't really stuck very well. If you're looking for a mid-range deck, it's more often Jund than it is Naya.
Yeah.
And I think if you're Rill coming into this tournament where, Jund is considered to be the best deck walking into this tournament, you can make the choice of playing red-green because your Jund matchup is not favorable, but it's close. You feel like you can win. But when you're playing against a deck like this Naya, mid-range aggro deck where all of its creatures are so efficient, they're so very good, you see Lebedowicz taking a mulligan down to at least 6 here, you can't be thrilled when you have to play against a deck that has Voice of Resurgence, Huntmaster of the Fells, Loxodon Smiter, Scavenging Ooze, Flint of Boar, all of these fantastic cards, and we haven't even mentioned Damirad or Bonfire of the Damned.
Right.
Cards to overcome.
One of the things that I believe Brian Kowal said to me when this set first came out is that Voice of Resurgence at its worst is a better Kitchen Finks.
Yep.
And if you're a red deck, you don't want to play against any kind of Kitchen Finks.
No, never. You never ever want to. And you can look at that game, the previous game, and it kind of exemplifies exactly how difficult this matchup is for Rill. Before Dragon's Maze came out, when we were in the Gatecrash era around Pro Tour Montreal, remember where, Burning Tree Emissary was public enemy #1, those Burning Tree draws, maybe back-to-back Burning Tree followed by Flint of Boar, the opponent was basically dead. There was really no coming back from that. You see Lebedowicz, Rill plays double Burning Tree into Flint of Boar, that's 7 power on turn 2. Lebedowicz goes, all right, I will play a Boros Reckoner, it is your turn.
Yep.
And Rill is just like, oh, geez, I can't really do anything about that. And even if that Boros Reckoner had been a Flint of Boar,
yeah.
Or excuse me, sure, Flint of Boar or Loxodon Smiter, or even Voice of Resurgence, it would have been equally as difficult for him to win. That kind of signifies what exactly has happened to Burning Tree Emissary, where its power level is inarguable. It's a heck of a card, but it's not as good as it used to be.
And this, I think, says a lot, because coming from you were playing that in red-green aggro pretty extensively, or in Jund aggro.
Yep.
Turn 1, we see Stromkirk Noble from Eric Rill.
So let's see, for Lebedowicz, he needs to get his feet set early. He's going to play a tap land and stomp ground and pass the turn back. This is, Rill has to be fantastic about this. No 1-drop, no Avacyn's Pilgrim to ramp him into a Boros Reckoner or a Loxodon Smiter. I wish he would have taken 2 damage from that maybe, but he doesn't, as Rill plays a Flint of Boar and passes the turn back.
Yeah, this is the position that Eric wants to be in. We see a Pillar of Flames and then an Avacyn's Pilgrim. A little less good than it was a second ago. Yeah,
he was feeling good after turn 1. He's not feeling great now, as his board has been kind of cleared a little bit. He does have that 3/3 Flint of Boar. He's going to need a follow-up play here because, the difficult thing here for Rill is while killing Avacyn's Pilgrim was pretty good, you can probably assume that Osyp, probably has a 3rd land and some sort of 3-drop. So, even if you do Pillar of Flame that while, that's a win in theory. I'll put it in quotes. Something bigger is just coming, and the longer the game goes, the more large threats that are coming, and you just don't ever want to be put in that situation.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Cedric Phillips. We're watching Osyp Lebedowicz and Eric Rill here in this game 2 of our first round. Eric Rill with red, with a little bit of green in his aggro deck, and Osyp with Naya. And as Cedric said earlier, very much like the Willie Edel list that we saw with popularity earlier in the year. We see his attack followed up by another Boar and by a Rakdos Cackler going back to Osyp. If you are also a person using Twitter, you should make sure to follow at SCG Live and get in on the conversation at #SCGINVI. If you were, you would know that Christian Calcano has already lost his first round.
unfortunate for him. Tough start to the day. As you see, Lebedowicz is going to play Temple Garden untap. He's going to take 2, but he's going to play 2 copies of Flintstone 4 past the turn back. Rill going to turn sideways here, maybe representing a Gorkland Rampager. You see Lebedowicz's blocks here. 1 boar here. There's your Rampager there. Blood Rush +4/+4. You'll see some trades. So we'll see some damage come across. After the dust settles, we'll have some updated life totals here, but Lebedowicz is going to lose both of his Flintstone 4s. Rills will lose one of his. He's going to follow up with a stronger Noble and pass the turn back. But right now, it's scary time. He's trying to dodge a card like Bonfire of the Damned, and he has done so, as Lebedowicz is going to draw his card for the turn. You see a Bonfire in his hand right now, but you want to be drawing that up the top. You don't want to already have that if you're Lebedowicz.
You know, a lot of people love their Bonfires. I just have not been a fan of them when I've been watching these play out. Even with the existence of AJ's success last week.
You know, there's no replication for a Miracle Bonfire of the Damned. It's a card that can turn things around for you in an instant. As you see, Lebedowicz is going to actually hardcast 1 to trade with the strong card. No, we'll get a damage over to Rill as well, and then play an Arbor Elf. As here come the Meatheads, the Boar, and the Cackler coming in. But, you know, the thing about Bonfire of the Damned, as you do mention, is, you know, sometimes it looks great, other times it looks super mediocre. That time it looked mediocre. Now, if Lebedowicz was the top deck one, it would be looking great.
Absolutely.
So we'll see if he can find one. He's going to chump block here and take 2 damage, but the reason for the chump block, of course, is that if he does Miracle, he does have 3 mana, and he does not draw 1 yet again. So let's see if he has anything to do this turn. Just a Forest. He's going to Bonfire for 2, going to take care of the Cackler, but the Boar is left over.
Yep.
So can Rill finish it off with like a Hell Rider, maybe a Gorkland Rampager being Bloodthirst?
In for 3. Osyp down to 3.
Just has to pass the turn back.
1 card in Eric's hand. Osyp has not miracled. And we're going to see, I believe Osyp is at 3, so that's going to be a chump. No, it's not.
It's going to be
die.
Mizzet Mortar is going to clear out the Avacyn's Pilgrim, and Rill is going to even it up, and that is exactly how the games have to go for him.
Yep.
You know, there's no Voice of Resurgence involved. There's no Loxodon Smiter or Boros Reckoner involved. Heck, not even a Gorkland Rampager. He has to fade those cards. Also has to fade Miracle Bonfire of the Damned, which he was able to do there. But things are going to be difficult for him. But it's not impossible, as you see him even up the match, and we're going on to a 3rd and final game. Something to take a look at here too, Adrian. I see you looking over Osyp's sideboard.
Yep.
Rill is the one going back to his sideboard, so Lebedowicz is certainly happy with his configuration. What do you think he changed?
Well, we saw the Pillar of Flames come on turn, I want to say 2, might have been 3.
Yep.
So we know that he brought in Pillar of Flames. I believe it's possible he brought in Mortars as well, because a Mortars not only can kill any random creature, but it's just efficient and can also be a possible sweep spell. And given that he has Bonfires in the deck, I would be unsurprised if he brought in the 4th Bonfire. Other than that, Selesnya Charm from the sideboard can be a good answer to a Gorkland Rampager's ability on another creature.
Also Volcanic Strength as well.
Yep, also Volcanic Strength. And I think that's probably about all that he would bring in. And he might not bring in a 4th Bonfire, but he probably did. And I think for outs, I agree with you that the Thundermaw Hellkite, that's the play with Osyp's deck that you play when you're winning.
Yep.
And for Osyp's deck, once he's actually recovered from the initial onslaught, he can kill them with Loxodon Smiter or Boros Reckoner or whatever.
Yep.
I think the Thundermaws are almost certainly the ones that went.
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thing here is, you know, you see varying builds of Naya because across those cards, across those colors, excuse me, the cards are so powerful. One thing you don't find here in Lebedowicz's list, you don't see a card like Restoration Angel.
Yep.
You actually don't see Huntmaster.
No Huntmaster, no Resto.
Yeah, he's got a much more aggressive approach with those Flint Hoof boards, with those Gorkland Rampagers, and you know, he's got the Thundermaw Hellkites that aren't particularly good in this matchup, but he has leaned towards a much more aggressive build than this kind of mid-range, and I can do a little bit of everything, but I don't do anything incredibly well, or maybe the bigger version that, you know, your friend won a PTQ with, unfortunately defeating you in the finals, with Aurelia and some other things. So he's taking a much more aggressive stance for this metagame.
Well, I mean, the thing about it, whether it's the bigger versions like the Aurelia version, or whether it's the smaller version, which can usually be marked by the Flinttooth Boar, either way, both versions of Naya, they're all mid-range decks. They're all aggro decks, but it's just how aggro do you want to go. Osyp's deck is going far more on the aggro, and what that means is he actually doesn't need a card like Thundermaw Hellkite in a matchup like this to close the game out. He'll close the game out by playing the cards that got him to be surviving in the first place. Whether it's a Smiter, whether it's a Reckoner, whether it's a Scavenging Ooze, those creatures, one of them will stick if the game goes long. And if Osyp's not dead, then that'll turn around at some point and start attacking.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter which one of the big things it is. He has the means, just the way that the deck is built. And I think, honestly, this is one of the reasons why Naya is a reasonable deck choice in a world full of Jund, is that you don't beat Jund by being more mid-rangey than them. You actually, I can't remember who said this, but I think they're totally right. To beat Jund, you either got to go over them or you got to go under them. Because if you go head-to-head with them, they're just going to train. There's going to be like this huge, huge train and barrel you down. And Naya aggro has the power to go under it. And now here in this matchup, you got somebody even smaller, this red-green aggro, doing what they want to do, turn 1, playing a creature. It's a Rakdos Cackler. Osyp just needs to weather this initial storm, and if he can do that, then he should be doing just fine.
Well,
Burning Earth is the only thing I think that can... Burning Earth and Hellrider are the only things I think that can change the equation if Osyp weathers the initial storm.
As someone who lost in the finals of my one PTQ I got to play this season, 2 red-green aggro, weathering the storm is easier said than done.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as I tried my darndest and wasn't able to. Now, Osyp had something I didn't have access to in my Jund deck, which is Voice of Resurgence. Makes weathering the storm a whole lot easier.
Yeah. One of the things here, even if it's just, you know, let's say, quote, just trading with something, right? The amount of damage that it ends up preventing is often really, really significant.
No. So let's see what's going to happen here. We're going to see a Burning Tree Emissary. There's your trigger. There's some red-green mana. Going to follow up with the Mizium Mortars. You know, you do have to clear that thing out of the way, make sure that your Cackler can attack, because again, you just want to get the game over with as fast as you possibly can. The longer the game goes, the more things favor Lebedowicz. As we saw the last game where Rill was able to just hold on to get the game done. You don't want to go long against this Naya deck, even though we have Naya aggro up there, which it is. Only one of these decks is playing aggro. Who's the beatdown? It's Eric Rill.
Yeah, I mean, we see 2 creatures, and now there are, because that's a Sacred Foundry, that Boar is a 3/3, and because that Elemental is what it is, it is a Keldon Warlord, it is a 3/3.
And so now things get difficult for Rill. He's got a board full of 2/2s. He's already used a Mizium Mortars, one of his best removal spells in this matchup. Mortars is great at clearing out Smiters, great at clearing out, you know, Boros Reckoners. I use great there.
I think we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see a Gorklan Rampager
That's
here.
What this feels like. And if you're Lebedowicz, I think this is the card that you play around. I think you know your opponent has in their deck, and it's pretty obvious. So you're able to play around this to the best of your ability. Again, trade your resources off, keep your life total high, make this game go as long as you can. You are the control deck in this matchup.
I really like this block here from Osyp. Assuming there's a Gorklan Rampager, what it means is if Eric wants to get rid of... Boom. There we go. If he wants to get rid of the Elemental, he has to use that. I mean, there's basically right here, he's traded away his board for what? One of Eric's good creatures, and as well as the Gorklan Rampager. The board is basically pretty stable now. All that Osyp has to do now is put down anything, and he's going to be able to have a defense set up.
And if he's attacking with an Avacyn's Pilgrim right now, you cannot be happy if you're Rill. He's getting in there for 1 point of damage. Okay, he's definitely got something to follow up with, which is an Elephant with a hammer and locks on a Smiter, plays a Sacred Foundry and passes the turn back. So back to Rill we go. We'll see if he has another Gorklan Rampager. Does he have a Mizium Mortars? You see a Boros Reckoner in his hand, and it looks like he's got a land to play as well. So the climb is a little bit uphill. If you're Lebedowicz, you've done your job. You've cleared things out of the way. You've traded off some of your, you know, your cards for his cards. You know that your card quality is higher than his, and you need to let that shine through as Rill plays a Boros Reckoner with mana to be able to give it first strike, but locks it on Smiter, allowing him to hold down the fort, making it so that if he does draw a Bonfire of the Damned at any point, he's going to be able to clear the way and then start attacking. And that's the situation you want to be in if you're Lebedowicz. You don't want to be in the situation where you have to draw Bonfire of the Damned to clear the game, or hardcast one as we saw last game.
I really like that Eric's deck has access to Boros Reckoner. One of the things that's so surprising about Reckoner, sometimes you don't see it in the aggressive builds of Red, and while it doesn't belong in every aggressive build, one of the things that's awesome about it is it's a great answer to some of the cards that you really don't want to see. Now, Osyp doesn't run Thragtusk, but a lot of other people run Thragtusk, and Boros Reckoner is such a great card against that card. Now, Osyp here, you might wonder, for those of you who are like, how come that Elemental died? Remember, the Elemental that comes out of a Voice of Resurgence is equal to the number of creatures that you control. So when the other creature died, it became small enough to die to the 2 power that Eric gave it earlier. So if you're wondering at home, how did both creatures die? It's because it was a 3/3, its friend died, so it became a 2/2.
had 2 damage on it from that Rakdos Cackler, and that's going to put it in the bin. As you see Lebedowicz here with a land, a Bonfire of the Dam, and a Damirade in his hand. So, going through the iterations, what do I want to do this game? Do I want to play Domri and up it? You know, what do I want to do to try to win this game? Is it worth it to just cast Bonfire of the Dam? That land is a Clifftop retreat. He's going to play Domri. Do I want to fight with this? What exactly do I want to do with this Planeswalker? Because it's the best card I've got right now. I'm going to go up. I'm going to reveal an Arbor Elf, which, you know, is +1 card. Not the greatest card I've ever seen in this situation, but not useless.
You know what? And it's a card that he didn't have to draw next turn.
Yep, and it's also going to get him closer to casting potentially a Bonfire of the Dam for 3, which would be the sweet spot in this situation. Let you clear out that Reckoner, let you clear out that Burning Emissary, also deal 3 points of damage, and going to clear out any potential Hell Riders that may come down here from Rill. So, not the worst card. Anytime Domri is finding something, you can't be too unhappy. As Rill untaps, he draws his cards, and we're going to see how he wants to navigate his turn.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Cedric Phillips. On the left, just off screen, the one and only Osyp Lebedowicz. On screen, on the right, Eric Rill. Osyp is playing Naya mid-range aggro. Eric is playing a red-based aggro deck with a splash of green. And he's kind of in a real tight spot. He has an opponent with Domri, Rod, Loxodon Smiter, and a fair amount of mana. And he has a Boros Reckoner, a Burning Emissary, and unfortunately for him, a fair amount of mana.
Yep.
Osip's mana is a lot more valuable than Eric's mana.
I agree. I agree. As you see Eric reaching for that Boros Reckoner. Again, you know, it feels like to me, do I want to trade Boros Reckoner with Loxodon Smiter is what's going on here. Maybe it's going to attack Domri. We don't know, and it is going to attack Domri. So we'll see if Osyp is going to block here. Is he just going to let this go down to 1 and let Rill finish it off and maybe a burn spell? But it's going to be another Boros Reckoner. Here's a landfall with a Flint of Core and pass the turn back. So Lebedowicz, a big draw step here. Is it Bonfire of the Dam? It's not, but is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? He has 7 mana. He can Bonfire for 3 to clear everything out of the way for Rill. So we're going to start by this going up. It's not anything of use, but I think we might see Lebedowicz tap a bunch of mana here. Is it going to be for Bonfire of the Dam 4, 5, 6, and 7? I think it is, Mr. Sullivan.
Now, this will kill everything on Eric's side of the board and then create 2 triggers off of Eric's Boros Reckoners. Where will those triggers go? I would not be surprised if Domri is not long for this world.
Yeah, I think you might want to start with Domri, but you could also make an argument for this. All right, I'm going to finish this Loxodon Smiter off mostly because I know that Domri did not reveal a creature, so the top part of Osyp's deck is not very useful. It's either a land or maybe a Bonfire of the Dam, Miracle Off, or some other spell. He does have additional Domris in his deck and also Selesnya Charm.
The question then, both of the triggers on Loxodon Smiter, or split the triggers up between Domri and something else?
Yeah, maybe 3 to the Dome, maybe take out one of those mana accelerants. You know, if I'm Rill in this situation...
Look at him thinking there. Yeah. He's like, oh, which one?
Yeah, if I'm Rill in this situation, I actually think I want to take down the Smiter because, you know, I don't really have anything left. Here comes the Smiter now, so I might just get killed by this. And this is what you mentioned during the sideboarding of this last game, the fact that Lebedowicz just... creatures play both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
They play defense first and they play offense. And if he had taken care of that Loxodon Smiter, that Flinch of Core off the top would have taken care of the Domri, and then Rill is actually sitting in a pretty good situation as Lebedowicz draws a card for the turn. It's a Mizzium Mortars, which would have been able to take care of this boar, but because that Smiter's there, maybe now Lebedowicz goes, all right, take care of your boar, keep attacking you, and now your creatures have to play defense, and we both know the red-green deck's creatures, they don't play defense.
This is true. Now, Osyp has a choice here. Okay, he's gonna go, I think, for just the race. 3-turn clock, 2 more turns after this. Lay the Voice. He does not cast the Mortars because he doesn't have to yet.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have to. Additionally, you know, the thing that he can do right now is you see him leave the Absence Pilgrim back and not attack with it. As you know, maybe this gives him a reason to double block if there's Mad Cat skills that shows up. But the other thing too here is there's a Pillar Flame that's going to take care of the Voice. Is this allows him to block now if he'd like to preserve his life total. So I actually like the no attack by the Pilgrim because, as you mentioned, it doesn't change the clock. It's going to be 3 turns no matter what.
Untap. He takes the damage, leaves the creature around. Now remember, Smiter is not a guy with Defender, and obviously there's no word Defender on him. I just say that because we usually see him on this kind of deck blocking, but what did we see last turn? Attack. It's only 2 more attacks for Eric to be dead.
Yeah.
I mean, it turns corners really quick, this deck. Naya is very good at that.
And I like mortarsing this here. Get this out of the way, get in. A little surprised to see the attack of the Absence Pilgrims. We didn't see it last turn, but there's no reason not to now because there's nothing that Rill can draw to actually kill Lebedowicz here. So now Rill's going to draw his card. He's going to pass the turn back. Here comes an attack for lethal. Okay, it's a Smiter.
Boy.
So draw and going to concede the game. So Osyp Lebedowicz is going to win game number 1 over Eric Rill. 2 games to 1. Naya aggro defeating red-green aggro.